Hey guys, we've got a active pattern out in the Gulf, and you know what that means.
Cible d'impact maximale.
J'avais dit, va chercher le nectar, voici le nectar. 14 ans de bouteille. Et il faut pas le noyer surtout, hein. Et pour le gagnant, voilà. Et il n'y a pas d'autre preneur pour le 14 ans?
Okay guys, that was the famous hurricane party scene. I don't know how many of you have heard of that, but that was from the 1974 movie called Hurricane. And just happened to find that on the internet there. So you've seen it, and there it is. Let me check the chat, see how we're doing. And pretty busy here. We've got, let's see here, Electric Dog and Burl H. Alexi Walsh is here, Fun with Tech, Bill Johnson in Milwaukee, Sue M. and Mike Estwick, and Fun with Tech. Yeah, we're all going to die. It's kind of fortunate we have only like Cat 1 potential out there. You know, I sure wouldn't put up something like that during a Cat 5 heading for the coast there, so it all worked out okay. Don't know Spanish. Yeah, I don't know either, but that's the only clip I could find. Justin Pulliam is here, and Ryan Toomey's saying hello to the chat. And is in the office watching the screens. All right, let's head into the maps here. Thought I had a few more charts than this. Let me take a look here. I'll bring up digital atmosphere. Okay. Let me bring up some data real quick here. So we're going to have data in here that's only 7 minutes old. And this will give us the latest surface chart here. And I think we're good to go here. I guess we can start with the southwest U.S., and you can see a very distinct change in the wind pattern out around that area. Northwest winds. So we've had a definite frontal shift in that area. And let's see here. I guess we're probably looking at a front all the way up to El Paso, perhaps. I don't know. That seems like an awful quick jump. I think yesterday we had the front a little bit further back to the west there. So We'll have to look at some other charts there. Up to the north, we know that the cold air mass is covering the high deserts there. And now we're starting to see warm air advection come in back on the west side here. So temperatures in Washington coming up to 71 in some areas. Some of that is due to adiabatic descent on the backside of the mountains there. But overall, pretty mild in this region. Up in British Columbia, we've got a frontal system moving through that area. Definitely looking at a little bit of cyclonic curvature here to the wind patterns, maybe through Alberta. Then we'll bring that off to the east, and looks like just kind of a southerly flow through the high plains. And then when we drop down to the central plains, looks like we've got some sort of polar high pressure area in the Dakotas, about right there. And let me try to pinpoint exactly where that high is. I think we're looking at it kind of right in this area. Yeah, that's where it is, right there. So high pressure through Minnesota, down to South Dakota, and on the other side up to the north, that's where we have the warm southerly flow coming up from the south. And then on the east side, this is the cool, cold air advection coming in from Minnesota and Iowa. So along the leading edge of that, we're seeing the cold front moving through Des Moines and north of Topeka, down through Guyman, and then up to, looks like just west of Denver. And you can see the winds come around to the west right there at Cheyenne. Very strong there, westerly at 20 knots there. So that's going to be the leading edge of the front right there. And then we've got the potential for a dry line to be in place. And so we look east to west and see what's going on. And it looks like we've got 60s all the way back to the mountains here. 61, 60, oh, there's 28 right there. But that could be the front with those westerly winds. Definitely very dry over the Four Corners area. That's going to be probably some, I don't know, I'm trying to decide if that's Pacific or desert air. We'll just have to look at some more charts there. But in any case, it looks like the leading edge is all the way to New Mexico. I think that's probably a front there. That's an awfully strong westerly component. Okay, and that only leaves the southeast U.S. and very predictable in that area. A little bit of a northerly component coming on shore in Florida. So not quite so tropical there. And yeah, the dew points, they're still up there, 73 to 78 there. And then up in the northeast U.S., much cooler up in that region, so I think we could be looking at a frontal boundary along this axis here. So let's see, where would that frontal boundary be? I'm just taking a look around here. Looks like the high pressure is centered over Virginia, right in this area. And this is going to be an area of frontalysis, where the air is spreading apart and reducing the temperature contrast at the surface. So we may not actually see a boundary through this area there. I think we actually may have one in Florida, maybe an old stagnant boundary, maybe through that area right there. That's kind of what I would go with. And then north of that, just a very gradual transition to polar air. Okay, so we've got a pretty thorough idea what's happening. So here's some very brown terrain. So where would we see terrain like this? That's northwest Alberta there, so we don't have the snow cover quite yet over that part of Canada. And even when you go up to the lakes up north of Yellowknife, no ice in those lakes yet. So temperatures have not quite come down yet, but they're about to do that over the next week. So this is when we're going to see that big transition coming in. And there's where some of it starts right there. This is polar air coming in from the Gulf of Alaska, and behind this you can see the very unstable look to the cloud field right there. And this is normally what we see with cold air advection spreading in behind the cold front. So when we go east of the cold air advection area, we would look for like a baroclinic leaf type pattern. I'm not so sure I see anything like that. It's probably been disrupted by the Rockies, but I think this is kind of a suspect area where I would expect to find it. So I could kind of connect that area like this. And then we would have to just rely on surface data through this area here. Pretty good low there offshore. That's at least a good 1,000 miles from the California coast. And then up over the Midwest, looks like we see a little bit of cloud associated with that cold front up in the northern plains. And then this area right here, over the Midwest, this is probably going to be associated with warm air advection over Illinois and the Great Lakes there. So you see right in this area here, this is the warm sector. If I draw the fronts out, there's the cold front, and then we look up and down this line right here to find the warm front, and we go from mid-70s here, upper 70s in St. Louis, and then the temperatures really drop there in Illinois. So I'm going to put that warm front, probably something like that right there. So anywhere northeast of that, this is going to be a large area of warm air advection, isentropic ascent, and lift. So you see exactly where this area is. Chicago is right there, and then we compare that with the satellite. And it kind of matches up pretty close there. So there's the warm air advection region. And then this is the cold front cloudiness area there. Okay, let's take a look at Nate, and that's now crossing from the Caribbean up to the the Gulf of Mexico there. We're up to 65 miles an hour sustained, 990 millibars. So starting to gather some strength, and it looks like it's coming a little bit further eastward than forecast, coming through that strait right there instead of up over land as we had been expecting. So I wonder if we're going to see this kind of head maybe towards that pool of higher ocean heat content, perhaps, and then maybe up into the Pensacola area, Mobile. That's not what NHC is calling. I'm just kind of looking at potential here. I would be a little bit concerned about this area since we've seen this eastward creep in the track. And this is the official NHC track right there. And that's bringing it just east of St. Louis, or not St. Louis, New Orleans on Saturday night there. And the fact it comes on shore Saturday night, that's the reason I dug out that hurricane party clip. I think there's going to be a lot of that going on, especially there in the French Quarter. Okay, there's the OHC chart there for today. And this is kind of like a measure of like the total heat content in the upper layers of the ocean. And just south of the meridian for St. Louis, or New Orleans, just south of there, the east part of that line, that's where we have that warm ocean surface. So we're kind of keeping an eye on that track, and I guess that's going to be an issue right there. This is the Dvorak curve for Nate there, and you can kind of see how the overcast is broken up. Some very cold tops in that overcast there, very, very cold spots there, but it's definitely not circular, and we don't see anything looking like an eye. Maybe a very weak one right in this area here. And then what they do is they run an automated algorithm on this, and doing that we can get a graph showing the intensity. The only downside is when we're crossing over land, like part of this system is doing, this can kind of disrupt the algorithm a bit. But what we're seeing here is kind of in line with what the storm is doing. So basically we're looking at values there just under the cutoff there for hurricane, and it's slowly on its way up there. Okay, let's see here. We'll go into the Synoptic chart, if I can find it. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so this is going to tell us where the air masses are, and yeah, it looks like that cold air mass has definitely come out. It's come out of the Rockies there, and I guess we're looking at the cold front, something like that. And there's the warm front moving up, or aligned up into Iowa, and then crosses over into Illinois, just like that right there. And then we've got our new system coming in from the Pacific, way up here. I'm probably going to put that cold front maybe up through Washington, like that. So this here is going to be a shot of colder air, possibly following in behind. Starting to get pretty cold up in Alaska there. Seeing the 534 decameter. So this is kind of like a large core of polar air starting to develop there. And then out in the Gulf we can see Nate off to the south. Now another way we can see it is with the infrared imagery, and there it is, and just not showing much of an eye, but I think probably tomorrow we're going to see a little bit of that eye come together as it moves out into the Gulf there. Okay, let me take a look at the chat here. Give me just a second. Okay, let me get caught up on chat here. Let's see, I got Stormy here. Which book would you recommend next? After Weather Analysis and Forecasting, probably a Severe Weather Handbook, if that's your interest. Or Storm Chasing Handbook. That's a little bit outdated. I've got to update that, but that would be another good one. Alexi says, don't forget to hit the like button. Justin says the weather charts one. Yeah, weather map handbook. You can do that one also. To me, I consider that more of a reference, but some people may get something out of that. Kathy Campbell Wallace, good evening, everyone. And VO Joe, 70 degrees here in Illinois. Digital Atmosphere version 3 released today with Fun with Tech there. Yeah, version 3 has been out for about a couple of weeks, but I'm going to get a patch out hopefully this weekend, because there's a feature in here that's broke. I was trying to do the cross sections, and I'm getting some sort of error here. Yeah, that's under this data menu under cross section. So yeah, if I do that right there and drag the cross section axis, I end up getting some sort of error. Oh, it's actually working now. It's kind of weird. Okay, so there's our unexpected cross section. Let's see if I can put that to use here. What I'll do is I'll zoom this map out just a little bit. This map is too large. I need to really take that out a little bit here. Okay, let me set a few parameters here. And you might remember yesterday we were talking about that upper level low over the northern Rockies. And we were talking a little bit about how there's lower heights up in that region. And I'm trying to kind of show you how to visualize this. And let me see if I can get this working. I'm going to try plotting the heights first. Let me go up to 500 millibars. Okay, there's the heights. The field is a little bit noisy. That's one thing when you kind of take control of your own weather charts. You have to kind of manage this stuff a little bit better. And there are some tools in Digital Atmosphere that let you do that. Under the analysis menu, you've got your choice of analysis types. And the top ones are faster and easiest, and the bottom ones are more complex, but they give you better results. So I'm going to see how these work out here. Okay, it's still a little bit noisy. Let me take that down just a little bit more. That's the problem with your different analysis schemes, is you're trying to capture the detail in the field without taking in too much noise. But the problem is if you get rid of all the small-scale noise, then you lose the important elements in the data that you're looking for. So this is better. This is kind of right where we want to be. We could smooth this even more, but then we would have kind of a useless chart there. Okay, let me do a quick sanity check and make sure that this matches up with the current weather. We should see a very similar field here. And this is kind of the process you should do when you're working with these charts. And we do see a little bit of a difference, but that could be due to the 12Z, the fact we're using 12Z data. Okay, and I don't know where to get a 0Z chart online at this time, so I'm going to bump this back to 12Z. This way I can just make sure everything is working here. So this is what we do on Meteorology Lab. You know, it's not really a news program. It's more of a training course, sort of. Kind of an ongoing course, and we kind of look at today's weather and use that as an example. Okay, so we're going to try to plot this here. And I'm looking to make sure this looks similar to that other map. Give me just a second. Let me clear out my throat here. Okay. That's what happens when you don't hydrate before a speech. So a little bit of a lesson there for you. Okay, so this looks very similar. So everything's looking good. Let me try to plot a cross-section, and I'm going to go from El Paso up to Wyoming, right into the center of that cold air mass there. And let me see if that works. Nope, range check. I think that may be due to the analysis type. Let me see what happens here. Okay. All right, that's going to be a bug I'm going to have to work with in the compiler. So we'll just kind of put that aside there. Okay. So we will take things forward, and one thing that's pretty obvious at this point is that this trough here has flattened out and it's lost amplitude. So it's kind of ejected northeastward and flattened and kind of filled, and it's heading mostly up towards Minnesota there. Okay, give me just a second. I lost my place there. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll take a quick look at a sounding. We'll look at Fort Worth. So we're going to expect to find kind of a tropical air mass there at Fort Worth, and indeed that's what we have there. This is 12Z. So this is this morning's data. This is the time in London. So 12 noon on the 6th. So what we have here is we have some very deep tropical air topping out at about 5,000 feet. And then above that, we've got a little bit of a cap. See the westerly mid-level flow and the slightly drier air, not very dry, but above that we've got some very warm air. Temperatures come up from about 17 all the way up to 20. And then they drop on off, and above that we've got some altocumulus layers right there at about 15,000. Okay, so a little bit of a different pattern compared to yesterday. So we've got the development of this maritime tropical air mass beneath what's called an EML. And that's what this is here. This is the environmental mix layer. And so if we go westward to Midland, the sounding should be only this air mass here. And this should... No, I'm thinking normally this does go away as you go westward, but I know that there's been a lot of tropical air building all the way back to the Sangre de Cristo's air. So I think we're going to see even more tropical air there as we go westward. Yeah, there it is right there. A little bit shallower there. And then Albuquerque, I think that'll probably be on the other side. Not quite. 12 o'clock, still a little bit of tropical air there. And look at that, an instrumentation error. It's a great example. I'm going to save that one. All right, let's see here. You don't see something that serious every day. I don't know if you've spotted it, but it's that very strong lapse rate layer right there. Your slope on this temperature line off to the right should never lean further left than this line right here. So what's happened is we had a very moist layer right here, probably a very vigorous cumulus cloud, and the radiosonde went right into the middle of that. And it came out of the top, and there's been some evaporation off the sensor. So we see this zone here of very cold air as that sensor wet bulbed in this drier air here. So how long did it take for that sensor to evaporate? This is kind of a problem I'm kind of doing for myself. Okay, we've left the top of the cloud at about maybe 5,000 meters. And the evaporation stopped at about 8,000 meters. So that's about 3,000 meters deep there. And you divide by 5 to get the time in seconds there. .600 divided by 60, and we get 10 minutes there for that moisture, which is, looks like ice, to evaporate off. That's the freezing line right there. So yeah, the sensor was iced up right there at about 15,000 feet there coming out of that cloud. Okay, let's head on into the forecast, and I guess we're pretty much done. And we'll give you the forecast from the GFS. So the big thing that we're going to see is Nate, of course, making landfall. And I think tomorrow night is going to be the big night that we're going to follow the landfall. We'll probably do like an extended half hour to an hour, but it's not really strong enough to do like an all-nighter or anything like that. So the central pressure, 994 on the approach, 995, 989, then 986 around New Orleans, 985. Okay, 981, that's where we bottom out there. And that's almost down to the typical Cat 1 reading there for a hurricane. And quite possibly we've intensified there to Cat 1. And then the remains move inland on Sunday, and then just kind of a low pressure area up towards Chattanooga, and then Pittsburgh and New York for Tuesday morning there. And then here comes the next change in from the west, and let's see how that happened. Let me go all the way back to the beginning, and because we've got a couple different systems out west there. We've got this one coming out of the Pacific, coming through New Mexico and Colorado, and we have this other one up to the north. Something like that right there. So for tomorrow, looks like that front there stalls over New Mexico. Let me pick up a better chart for that. Yeah, let's do that one right there. Okay, for tomorrow night, let me get that centered. Yeah, it's very interesting. We had a very strong temperature contrast right there. You can definitely see that thickness gradient, and there's the front. And then it looks like overnight we've got frontalysis there. In fact, the strongest gradient goes rapidly northeastward tomorrow morning. And then, yeah, we get this frontalysis taking place. And then we lose the gradient right there. But the boundary is still there, and I think that's it right there at 12Z. And then at 15Z, it's located right there in that trough. 18Z located there. And then you can see that little outline right there. That's the trough. and then it's probably lifting northward a little bit. So tomorrow night we're going to find it probably from Arkansas to north of Dallas there, but weakening pretty strongly. And then our attention focuses up to the northern Rockies right in this area here. That's going to be the next system coming down, and there it is. Wow, look at that push right there. Sunday morning, then Sunday evening, very strong. Yeah, that's going to be pretty spectacular when that comes through. So there's Sunday and then Monday. Wow, that comes down very quickly once it crosses the Rockies. And there's the leading edge right there. So that's going to be Monday night. And this is going to come through a little bit early into Texas on Tuesday morning. No, that's right on time. Okay. So Monday night's webcast, yeah, coming through Texas right there. Then for Tuesday, it's already come up to the Gulf Coast. Got a low moving up to the Midwest right there, and then we have our next shot coming in. And we're just waiting for a wave to pick that up. And looks like, yeah, there's one right there. So this is Monday, the 15th, Sunday the 15th right there for the evening webcast, and then we go into Monday. So a little chance of thunderstorms there in the Midwest for Sunday night, the 15th into the 16th. A little bit of a snowstorm there in North Dakota into the Winnipeg area. And then we should have some pretty good cold air come down on the backside of that on the 18th. And then another shot. Yeah, we've got kind of a northwesterly flow pretty much open there. And let me take a look at the long wave pattern for the continent. We haven't looked at this in a while. And hopefully this doesn't mess up the stream. Okay. Let me take a quick look at chat here. Got Justin Pulliam and Jeff Lockwood talking about some of the data there. Jeff Lockwood getting some bad data. Justin says, does anybody have it on Windows 10? I've got it on my laptop on Windows 10. Is everything in digital atmosphere public domain? Yeah, you can rebroadcast it all you want there. Ryan says, high tide, king tide, full moon strike for Saturday for landfall there in Louisiana. David Moore joining us. Crazy weather swing on tap for Denver this weekend. Justin says, is your digital atmosphere font updated? No, it's the same as the previous version. You may need to run the installer as admin. Yep, Andrew Hotchkiss talking about the cross-section. And let me continue on down. I'm seeing we've got a low video output. Hopefully this isn't bothering you guys. Okay, so we will close on off and look at this upper air pattern for the continent. Because we've got this very persistent northwesterly flow. Very strong long wave across the North American continent. If this was winter, we would likely be having some snow here in Texas and Oklahoma. So there's one good wave coming down, and then we get a couple of ridges building, and there's another shot of jet stream energy coming into the Pacific Northwest, and then we hit the end. Okay. I think that's just part of our transition to winter there. I don't see a big long wave up north. We did have one. It looked like, let's see here. Yeah, just briefly around the 13th, it was looking pretty good there, and then that kind of closed on up. And then we just kind of went to this very high amplitude pattern. But some pretty good cold air production there, so anyway. All right, let's see, that's probably all I got for tonight. I hope you all enjoyed the webcast. Let me get the closeout music going. And we will watch that hurricane for tomorrow. Shouldn't have any big problems with that, but at least for those of you who are in the city, should be okay. Okay, that's all I got, so hopefully we will talk to you later. Have a good evening.